Hello, my lovely supporters, and welcome back to the MJ Innocent podcast. I'm your host, Moonwalker Tanya. All right, part 5, here we go.
The Martin Bashir documentary, Living with Michael Jackson, came out in 2003, and it was presented to Michael as sort of something that would put him in a positive light.
Well, that is what Martin Bashir said, but in reality, that's not what happened. So, to anyone who doesn't know or who hasn't seen this documentary, so Michael didn't like to do interviews. Michael made that very clear. And so Martin Bashir wanted to do a documentary about Michael to set the record straight, to try to basically clear up anything that was unclear, basically. And in order to manipulate Michael, he even showed him like the statement from Lady Diana, who Michael loved and admired so much. And so Michael agreed to do it. But then when the documentary aired, Michael regretted it. And he was going to sue Martin Bashir. But unfortunately, the allegations came forward from the Arvizos, and this documentary is part of the reason why that trial happened in the first place, unfortunately.
8 months ago, I put a proposal to Michael Jackson. Show me the real man, but show me everything.
Michael decided that he wanted to include in the show, and this was like at the last minute, this kid, Gavin, and his family.
Actually, that's not true. It was actually Martin Bashir's idea to include a child whom Michael helped. And they were trying to decide between Gavin or Dave, who is a burn victim. Now, Michael personally wanted Dave, but Martin Bashir wanted Gavin, so they went with Gavin. That was a big mistake. And plus, it wouldn't surprise me if Martin Bashir did that on purpose to set Michael up. Because I'm pretty sure Martin Bashir knew that Gavin's family were very sketchy.
Gavin Arvizo, he has a very large tumor that has to be taken out. He has his gallbladder removed. He had a kidney removed. His parents were told to prepare for a possible funeral. And kids who are dying often get a last wish.
You know, and when it comes to that, I do feel bad for Gavin. You know, because, I mean, no child deserves to die from cancer. So, you know, I mean, I'm thankful to all the people in the hospitals who help kids with cancer and all this other stuff. And Michael also helped. But like I said in the previous part, Michael made a huge mistake staying in touch with the Arvizos, because they took advantage of him. And, you know, Michael was naive. You know, he thought that if he helped these people, you know, they would be grateful. But you have to remember, you know, while Gavin was fighting cancer, his mother was scamming businesses and reporters to make money. So, you know,
I can't help but think that Michael Jackson had lost a sense of what was socially appropriate.
Okay, so I knew they were going to include this. Now, to anyone who hasn't seen Living with Michael Jackson, there's something you need to know about this. Okay, so not only was it Martin Bashir's idea to use Gavin instead of Dave, it was also Martin Bashir's idea for Gavin to hold Michael's hand and to lay his head on Michael's shoulder. And before any MJ haters say, oh, no, that's not true, Tanya. Actually, it is, because Aphrodite Jones confirms it. So look it up if you don't believe me. Okay, so there is a moment in this documentary where Chris Tucker's ex-girlfriend talks about the Arvizo family. And, you know, they spent a lot of time with the Arvizo family before Michael did. You know, and Chris Tucker tried to warn Michael about the Arvizo family because, you know, his ex-girlfriend was talking about how they would invite them over to their house, they would watch the game, or they would go out to eat and stuff. But Chris Tucker tried to warn Michael that after a while, they were taking advantage. And they also did that with Jay Leno and George Lopez. And of course, they had to play the part where Martin Bashir said, is it really appropriate for a 44-year-old man to be sharing a bedroom with a kid? And Michael said it's a beautiful thing. And to anyone who hasn't studied Michael, there's something you need to understand. Whether if you think the sleepovers were okay or not, that's one thing. But you cannot use that to point to guilt. Now, when Michael was growing up in Gary, Indiana, think about it. There were 9 kids, 2 adults in a 2-bedroom house. The brothers, they had to share bunk beds. So, and nothing inappropriate ever happened. So, and you have to remember that Michael, he was childlike, but he knew when it was time to be an adult, obviously. But it was just something that the Jackson family was used to. They always shared the beds with each other, but sharing a bed with a relative, I understand, is different from sharing a bed with someone who you're not related to. So that I do understand. But you also have to remember that there were other people who were in the room. There were security guards or there were parents. Even Elizabeth Taylor attended one of the sleepovers and she said nothing happened. The kids would sleep on the bed and Michael would sleep on the floor. Now, Michael did say that he did sleep in the bed with Macaulay Culkin and his siblings, but Macaulay Culkin, even to this day, says nothing happened. Even Brett Barnes said that he and Michael slept in the same bed and nothing happened. And then, of course, Dan Reed tried to say, well, that probably only happened until Brett was 14. No, Brett Barnes actually came forward and said that he slept in Michael's bed until he was 19. So that whole thing about Michael not being interested in boys once they turn 14 and the whole thing that he's gay or whatever, that's thrown out the window. Yep. They're desperate, but it doesn't work.
He sounds disturbed. He sounds like a man who shouldn't be around children.
No, that's actually Wade Robson.
According to the Arvizo family, they got them to help create a rebuttal video.
Now, the reason why this was created was because Michael was furious with what Bashir put out. And I've seen the rebuttal. It was amazing because what people don't know is when Martin was editing stuff out of his documentary to make Michael look bad, Michael also had his cameras rolling and recorded everything. And you see, that's why I'm very proud of Andy Signor from Popcorn Planet, because when Andy was in the second mockumentary, which took me by surprise, I was shocked. Andy said that he had his cameras rolling at the same time, so Dan Reed could not make Andy look bad, which is what he was afraid of. So Andy, good on you to learn from Michael's mistakes, because that's exactly what Dan Reed was going to do.
Please, Bashir. Hey, you know how Bashir zoomed in on him holding hands? Do that the same thing.
Michael, with the help of several people on his team, engineered a kind of response documentary that showed him in a more positive light.
Michael has claimed that what TV journalist Martin Bashir presented was a twisted and edited construction of scandal and innuendo.
There was
Bashir is just another hack journalist out to do a hit piece.
Some of Mr. Bashir's comments that made the air appear to be quite different than opinions he expressed in Jackson's behind-the-scenes footage.
Michael Jackson had his camera rolling during the Bashir documentary filming. And he said when Bashir turned off his cameras, Michael Jackson's cameras continued to roll.
And that was a good thing. So, Michael, very good move on your part. It still wasn't a good idea to talk to Bashir, but still, at least you were wise about it.
This comment about Michael's method of raising children was included on Bashir's special. They are restricted They are overly protected. I was angry at the way his children were made to suffer.
First of all, they were overly protected, and yes, Michael was strict, but for good reason. He was trying to protect his children from seeing the media garbage, the tabloid garbage, like he tried to keep his kids off the internet and all this other stuff. So, sorry that Michael was trying to be a good father. Sheesh.
But this was not.
Your relationship with your children is spectacular. And in fact, it almost makes me weep when I see you with them.
Two very different comments, right? The first one with Bashir's cameras. The second with Michael's cameras on and Bashir's cameras off. Interesting.
Gavin's being made fun of at school.
As a parent, Janet is now being crucified for allowing her son to sleep in the bed with Michael Jackson.
Gavin's mother never gave permission for that documentary to air with her children in it and went to a lawyer. The lawyer took a look at...
Actually, that's not true. The reason why she went to a lawyer was because Michael said that the Arvizo family could not live at Neverland and said they had to leave. They were trashing the property, they were stealing from Michael. Janet Arvizo was spending Michael's money and ordering Michael's employees around like she lived there. So no, that is not what happened. And the lawyer said that she had to go through the criminal case first before she could even pursue a civil case because, she went to a civil lawyer first. But it's not about money, right?
These kids and immediately contacted another lawyer by the name of Larry Feldman. He had represented Jordy Chandler. He was the one responsible for turning Jordy Chandler into quite possibly the wealthiest 13-year-old in America.
Okay, so I think that's a good stopping point for this episode. Now, in the next part, they interview a psychiatrist who spoke with the Arvizo kids and all this other stuff. And he talks about how they alleged that Michael gave them wine and I think he also said vodka on the plane and also at Neverland. But even though I've already explained this before, I'll go into details about that in the next episode. All right, so let me know what you guys think about this, and I will see you in the comments. MJ Innocent.